Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Falato, who again was live from practice today, the second of two Giants-Jets joint practices, this time at East Rutherford, right? It was at the Quest Life. I saw that. And that's good news for us, and especially Nick, who had a lot to say about yesterday's Florham Park food service system.
Oh, that was rough.
They were struggling. And I first time in my life I've ever heard Nick complain about anything food related. Also, generally speaking, I can count on one or two hands how many times I've just heard Nick complain in general about anything in life. He's not a complainer, the opposite of me, basically my polar opposite from that standpoint. I'm willing to and will complain about things, and I don't really care if people judge me for that. It's who I am. Very Larry David-esque, as I've been told from multiple sources. Though I will say this, I see Happy Nick today, so I think the food situation was better at MetLife. I will say this, though.
My happiness is not contingent on the
That's
food.
what I was going to say.
It was just like my only point of contention with the Jets was an hour and a half after. It was like they forgot that they had it. I don't know what happened. Something happened. I'm unaware. It's just I know everybody on the beat on both the Jet and Giants side were like, what the fuck is going on? So I felt like it should be addressed.
It should be addressed. And I will say this. I feel like it was a little unfair to the staff, to the food staff there. I feel like that's a coordination issue. I feel like more so that blame should be on the coordinator, and I think you know that as well. With that said, I'm not even certain or sold that you will eat anything that's provided for you in these types of situations, knowing you the way I know you. Like maybe if they throw an apple or something out there, though I think that probably has too much sugar in it and too much carbs. Like I guess if they throw they'd probably give you like fried food from my guess, or like a burger. Maybe you can eat that, just the patty. I don't know.
I can't tell you, Dan. I wasn't out there, but they had signs out there. They said salmon, and I don't know how I feel.
You'll do salmon.
I mean, I would, yes, from like a real restaurant. But either way, we can stop the food talk. It's all well and good, but we want people to be trickling in here.
Exactly.
Dan and I.
People don't realize we need a buffer because these lives take time to build, and then they really build. And yeah, if you're listening on the podcast forum, I'm sorry to say that, but some of you like our talk about food and golf and things of that nature. So it's not all negative. All right. And please, by the way, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't care, Nick. One last promo from the plug god himself, as I claim to be on FFT. If you want to help and do something really awesome for charity, St. Jude is, in my opinion, the best charity out there. And I know this because I've vetted it and I've gone through it. And this is my fourth year doing Draftathon over at Fantasy Football Today on CBS Sports. And within that, we do Draftathon every year, which is a 2-month-long donation for St. Jude. We raise money for St. Jude. We've already raised over $150,000. We're looking to top that number. Tomorrow, we will be doing a live stream on Fantasy Football Today where I will be taking on Adam Azer, the host of that show, in a tennis match. So if you want to have fun, troll me over there.
You're doing that again.
Dude,
that's awesome. Didn't you kick his ass last year?
I won 6-2, 6-0 last year. This year, he set the spread last year at 2.5 games. Adam had to win over 3 to win. He lost. This year, the spread is 4.5 games. Adam's been playing 4 times a week. I don't play tennis. I play golf almost exclusively. And I'm looking to cover and beat that spread. If you want to donate and raise money for St. Jude for an amazing cause, and this is the last thing, we'll get into Giants football in a second. I'm sorry. Skip forward to 4 minutes if you're listening on the podcast. Please go over to Tiltify, type in Tiltify Draftathon Fantasy Football Today. You'll find it. Or you can find it on my Twitter. Bid on me, and we'll get to share and co-manage a fantasy football team for the Fantasy Football Today Listener League. And if I cover the spread and I beat Adam, and Adam doesn't get 5 total games in 2 sets, you will get to draft with me, co-manage a team. We get to have draft perks. We get to swap draft slots with Adam, and we get to swap 3rd-round picks with Adam. Could be very, very valuable. Now let's get into some Giants football, Nick. Today you were at practice and you were watching the defense. So let's start there and we'll talk a little offense as well.
Absolutely. So it was another story where the New York Giants defense basically dominated the Jets offense. And I think you could say the same about the Jets defense against the Giants offense. I would argue, especially today, and I think according to Ed and a bunch of people who are watching the Giants offense, the Giants didn't have Andrew Thomas. Obviously, they didn't have Jermaine Illuminor because he had a child. So congratulate Jermaine on Twitter. So he was not at practice. Malik Neighbors wasn't there. Darius Slayton hardly practiced. Jalen Hyatt, I have no idea what's going on with him, but he did return to practice. Evan Neal did practice and reportedly had a great practice. But focusing on the Giants defense, they're just like Olu Fashanu and Armand Membu. Those are 2 young, promising offensive tackles, but Kayvon Thibodeau Brian Burns and Abdul Carter are a handful, especially when 97 is also playing, pushing around Josh Myers and the interior parts of that offensive line of the New York Jets. So on a lot of those first team reps, it was just Brian Burns winning around the edge, and Brian Burns might have had his best practice at training camp today. If not, it was probably yesterday. And then he talked to the media after the game or after the practice as well. And it was interesting because him and Abdul Carter tried to race to the podium because the media had access to Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, and Jackson Dart. And Abdul beat Burns there. And then Burns was like, no, get out of here, rookie. And the rookie took his rightful place and was like, I'm beat here. And Brian Burns, always a fun interview. But yeah, it was the Brian Burns show. It was the Giants pass rush show. And it's also like, I want to, I'm not like trying to temper the expectations because anybody who listens to this podcast knows I'm very high on this Giants pass rush. I think it could be I think it could be the best pass rush in the NFL if all things go correctly. Like I think it has that potential, and I do not think that's hyperbolic at all. But the Jets offense it doesn't look like it's going to be that great, specifically from a passing standpoint, right? Like Justin Fields, he's still Justin Fields, and that's not a knock on Justin Fields, but Justin Fields was never somebody who was overly decisive with the football with excellent touch or anything like that. So when the pass rush is coming in on Fields, he's more so just running around and trying to find a path. And a lot of the balls that he ended up releasing, I was like, that might've been a sack, And I calculated, I think like 4 or 5 sacks. And those were like definite sacks where it was like Micah McFadden ran past him, slapped his ass, and then like trotted off. And then Fields would like uncork a football and sailed like 3 yards out of bounds. So that's not to knock Justin Fields, but the Giants did very well from a pass rushing standpoint in that regard. We can get into the run defense here in a little bit. I really want to talk about that as well, but I want to kick it over to you to see if you have any thoughts.
We have to start on the pass rush. I don't want to bury that lead. It is still the lead. I'll say this, like some of the reps, like I saw some comments. I retweeted a couple of the videos. There was the one rep where Abdul Carter just dominated. Believe it was a first team guard for the Jets, and would have sacked Justin Fields. And you can watch, like Carter just stops. Like he simply stops, and then Fields like rolls to his left and connects on a pass toward the sideline. It's like, wow, look at this play by Fields. Great play by the quarterback. It's like, no, it's not, because if Carter didn't just stop, Fields is never going to get off that clean of a pass. And I think ultimately, while I do agree with you, this is going to be one of the, let's say, bottom 10 offenses in the NFL. Probably that's being generous, maybe bottom 5. And we're talking about the Jets offense. A lot of the ways we won are going to translate because they were won with the pass rush, not with great pass coverage or some horrific off throw by Justin Fields. It's simply just being dominant up front and winning. And I'll say this, while I do believe the Jets will have a bottom 10, maybe bottom 5 offense overall, I think they're going to probably have a top half, if not top 12 offensive line overall. They've really added a lot of talent there. So what does that tell me? It tells me that this defensive line is going to be able to win against anyone they play against this season, Nick. I really do believe that. Very few offensive lines, the Eagles, the Lions, I don't know if the Giants will play the Lions. I don't know why I brought that up. The Eagles and a few other teams are going to give this defensive line trouble. I think for most offensive lines, we're going to get through from a pass rush standpoint. And I did want to say one more thing. Brian Burns all over the field, looked awesome out there. The big thing with Burns is you and I never subscribe to this narrative, Nick, that what a bad trade by the Giants. How could they give up all this and then sign that contract? We all recognize, you and I recognize that amazing film that he put forth until he got injured last year and had to play through injury. Well, now he's healthy, or at least not fully, because he said today after practice, I don't know if you caught that, he's like, I'm not fully healthy, but as long as I deal with this problem better than I dealt with it last year, I should be good to go. Hopefully he is. But he looks way healthier out there.
Exactly. And look, man, like even in this, like people say, oh yeah, he played well until he got hurt or whatever. And I get that. He played every game injured. He still had over 60 pressures. And what was it, like 8.5 sacks or something? Like he still had really good numbers on a shitty team. Most of the season without Dexter Lawrence, a lot of the season without Kayvon Thibodeau, and no Abdul Carter. And like, to me, I think Brian Burns is someone in this locker room who sets the freaking standard, and all the young players look up to him. And if you listen to Abdul Carter's interview after practice, he alluded to that as well, and how much respect he has for how Brian Burns prepares for practice, how physical Brian Burns is. And Brian Burns, after practice as well, talked in the same regard about Dexter Lawrence. Now, Dexter Lawrence has allowed him to unlock a different level of power. Now, Dexter Lawrence has helped teach him from a technical standpoint. So, like, I think this unit can be very special. Dexter Lawrence, like, I don't even know who the primary guy is on the unit. Like, I guess you say it's Dexter Lawrence, but I think Abdul Carter could easily be that guy.
Yeah.
And that's not even to mention Brian Burns, who would be a 1A on most teams in the NFL as a pass rusher. And then you have Kayvon, and everyone's forgetting about Kayvon. Kayvon had a very good practice. First play of team periods in 11 on 11s, Kayvon Thibodeau just threw the offensive tackle to the side and then just wrapped up Breece Hall right in the hole. Quick TFL, but probably would have been a tackle for a loss for like 2 or 3 yards. That's how much penetration and how quick Kayvon was off the ball. And then the first rep of one-on-ones, I think it was against Armand Membu, Kayvon Thibodeau opened up the arc. Membu just took one too many steps up the arc to open his hips, and then Kayvon just threw him inside and swung right inside and would have had a clear path, hips oriented into the pocket for a sack if that were the drill. So Kayvon's slowly having a quality camp, and a lot of us Giant fans, us included, I think, we're not discussing him as much because he's been here for a while and he hasn't been as exciting as maybe we have hoped. But with all of these other pieces the Giants have, I have to imagine Kayvon is also going to feast, and he's still just like 24 years old coming into his own.
I was literally just typing that in to look that up. How old is Kayvon Thibodeau? 24 years old, could easily break out at any point, and this could be the year. Especially, I feel like he's looking even more powerful. One of those bull rushes against Membo, who's a really strong player, first-round pick for the Jets, really got great leverage, I thought, on that and drove him back. And look, if he's your fourth option, dude, like, what the hell? That means a one-on-one every time, which he didn't always get in his first couple seasons of the Giants. And listen, you talked a little bit about Burns. He's entering his age 27 season, Nick. So he could easily be breaking out and playing his best season of his career this year with the Giants, especially when you consider what's
like a
going
teenager.
On.
He's breaking out.
Yeah, that was a great joke. No,
acne joke, baby.
It was. I mean, I think we all got that. But I like it. You know what? We got to throw more jokes in on this podcast. Anyway, but what was I going to say? What I was going to say is, on one of those reps, the reps that I referenced earlier, where Abdul Carter just absolutely toyed with and destroyed that interior offensive lineman, and it would have been a sack against Fields. I've seen that like 4 or 5 times already. This camp, this training camp, preseason, these joint practices, where he's just unguardable, Abdul Carter, against a guard. And then I've seen him line up in the preseason game, wide 9, and he's unguardable against one of the better tackles in the NFL, Deion Dawkins. I don't know where the Giants would rather use him, and I don't know where he's even at his best, wide 9 or over a guard or center. But I know that they're going to use him in both ways, and I know he's pretty much unguardable in both ways. And I'll say this, Nick, like, he's lived up to the hype completely, but in a lot of ways, he's been better than I thought he would be. I don't know how to describe that, and I really do feel that way from watching his Penn State tape to now. I think he's almost better than I thought he would be, especially this early. So not only I think he could be the best player for the Giants this next season overall, I think it's just a good example, and it brings it back. And I wanted to make this point today, Nick. A lot of talk during draft season is, what does opportunity cost? To you and I, it matters a lot. To other people, it's like, no, you got a chance to draft a quarterback. You have the 2nd or 1st or 3rd overall pick or 6th overall pick 2 years ago. You just have to draft a quarterback. You have to take your chance. You have to say, whatever, I believe in this guy. Maybe I don't know if he has these traits that can be amazing in the NFL. I don't care. I believe in this guy. I'm just so thankful, man, that our coaching staff and our personnel and executive staff didn't go with that pressure to just draft a quarterback at that pick at 3 overall. They understood the opportunity cost, what you lose by passing up on a player like Abdul Carter for a player like Sanders, who, quite frankly, I don't believe has any trait except for maybe accuracy that's worth deeming taking a quarterback there. Honestly, even Dart. Like, imagine if they had just gone Dart at 3 overall instead of Carter. Yeah. You're skipping up on something that you're not going to get at 34 or wherever else in the draft. There's no one like Carter in this draft. No one, literally no one like Carter in this draft.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last edge rusher who had this much hype around him heading into his first season. I'm sure it's probably relatively recently, but like Kayvon didn't have this kind of hype, right? Like Kayvon did not have this type of hype. And now Aiden Hutchinson, I wouldn't say had this type of hype. Like, you have NFL Network talking almost exclusively when they're talking about the Giants defense, about Abdul Carter, and not just Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon and all the other pieces that we have mentioned. And you're right, man. He's winning these one-on-ones. He lost actually one-on-one I had, because there were one-on-one drills that were running simultaneously to 7-on-7s, same as yesterday. And I wasn't able to really catch a lot of the 7-on-7s, but it was in the red zone. It was at like the 10-yard line. I think Fields went 4 for 7 twice. And his first 4 in the first segment of those 2 segments that I just mentioned, he threw 4 touchdowns, but it's within the 10-yard line. There's no pass rush. I don't really think there's too much to read into when it comes to that. But yeah, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Dex, they all had solid one-on-one sessions, as you would imagine. Some of the back-end guys, not as much. So I feel like the one-on-ones, it was split between the Jets and the Giants, maybe leaning a little bit to the Jets side. But the Giants star players really feasted and did well. But then the 2v2s, the stunt and game drills, the Giants just dominated those. Like it was Dex and Kayvon. It was Golston and Abdul Carter. Like Golston and Carter easily just dominated the I wasn't able to write down the Jet players, but the way the Jets and Giants have been doing it, it's like first team against first team. It's not like you're gonna be like, hey, UDFA, go up against Abdul Carter. It's not necessarily like that. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, the twist, and there's only 2 guys out there, so I think the defense has a little bit of an advantage when it comes to that. But the Giants look really good in those twist drills.
And you know what? It says so much to me, Nick, that you said like, oh yeah, and there was maybe a rep or two that Carter lost. We're talking more about the reps he loses as the outliers than the reps he wins. 100%. Like that just shows how just unique of a player he is. You can't pass up on that. I think the Browns will really regret what they did trading. I know they have a first round pick now next year, but to pass on a player like Carter, you could have had Carter and Myles Garrett on the same defense, like
Hunter and Shador
Hunter. And it's like Hunter and Shador. Yeah. Round 5 and you pair Hunter with Shador. If Shador ends up being anything, I'm highly
hurt.
He's hurt. He hurt his oblique throwing today. I felt like I'm not going to get too far into this, but I felt like his first preseason game was insanely overhyped. Like I agree. Dart was better on tape. I thought I'm not going to get into that. It is what it is on that front. But I just think, what'd you say?
I said he looked fine, but like people.
Fine. Yeah,
his
touchdown was great. But
I didn't watch the game, Dan. Right, and again, we don't have to get too far. I didn't watch the game, and I just saw Twitter just being like, bah, 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 bah,
I know
Twitter was on fire. So I was like, oh man, I got to circle back and watch this. So I circled back and I watched it, and like his first like 3 or 4 throws, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I know. And then there were a couple nice ones, and I was like, that's kind of what I expect from him, though. You know,
like he was fine. He was
fine,
pretty okay to good. I guess like you can say like it's on par with Dart, though. I thought Dart's preseason game was considerably better. I watched them both, but like there were people like, see, this is the Giants screwed up. Like the Giants screwed up. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, big NFL personalities.
At 3 over Carter. That would have been the worst freaking decision this franchise could ever make. Literally, quite literally. The dumbest decision. It would have been worse than Jones at 6 to pass on Carter for a player like that. I'm standing by that. But like he also was still doing the same thing where like he was retreating backwards in pockets. Horrible. And that's like a terrible habit that will literally kill him at the NFL level. But we'll pass through this. I don't want to get worked up. It just made me so mad when people were like, how did they see the Giants shit? Like, dude, what? What are you watching? Carter's phenomenal. But point being, and I don't know how we even got off to that. I'm sorry. I just had a little bit of a tangent there. It just got me really worked up. But let's circle back to Carter. Yeah, Carter, the fact that the story is the reps that he loses are rarer than the reps that he wins says all that I need to know about what Carter is going to be for this franchise moving forward. Now, with that said, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about the Giants' run defense. So let's get into that right now. It's been a big topic of contention.
I want to talk about the secondary because Tay Banks did not practice today. Tyler Nubin did not practice in team drills. Something must have happened in 7-on-7 because he wasn't listed on the injury report. And then I just saw him riding the bike on the side and him with his pads off. So we saw a lot of Nick Jones, a lot of Raheem Lane, a lot of TJ Moore, some of D Williams with the first team because Drew Phillips was also on a pitch count. And so was Cordell Flott. So the Giants secondary in this practice was really weak and it really didn't matter all that much because of the Giants pass rush. So I think that's important to note all of that. Now, when it comes to the run defense, the Giants, I feel like they bottled the Jets up all practice except for 3 plays. 2 of them were zone reads. So I'm not beating myself up over that. One of the zone reads probably it was the first one. I think it was on the first session. Probably like a 12-yard run by Justin Fields. Brian Burns crashed inside to the mesh point. Have to imagine the Giants that was a design. That's not just Burns doing that by himself. And there was either a secondary force defender or the primary force defender was supposed to fill. Don't know what happened to him because the players were standing in my way. And then Fields just tucked it for 12, whatever, right? And then the second big run was a weak side Braylon Allen off edge run that probably went for like 35 yards and a touchdown. Giants flowed to the other side. I'm not sure if it was a misdirection. Couldn't glean that. But all I saw was Braylon Allen outrunning TJ Moore to the sidelines. And Braylon Allen then outran the safety, I think Makari Page, for a touchdown. And I was just like, wow, Braylon Allen is special looking. And that dude just like one of the most well put together looking like young players at the running back position. Like he just looks the part.
Let me ask you a side question real quick then.
Yeah.
Did you like... Is this Braylon Allen hype is real for the Jets?
Yeah. Well, he's running with the first team. Like again, Breece Hall, if you had to tell me who's the number one, who's getting the first reps, it's Breece. but Braylon Allen's getting first team reps as well. Like that's going to be, I think, more of a split than people are anticipating.
Fantasy,
And also like there's contractual things with Breece Hall and there's a new coaching staff and they seem to like Braylon Allen. So you know how those things tend to go, especially on a team like the Jets that may be struggling offensively. So I think they're going to change it up. I still think Breece is a phenomenal player, but Braylon's going to have his role on that team. But in the third play, was another zone read by Justin Fields that probably would have went for a touchdown. Again, it's a little hard to tell because the corners are just like running and slapping. But like my point is the Giants didn't play it all that well. So it sounds like, oh, wow, those are 3 long runs. 2 of them went for touchdowns. That's pretty bad on the Giants defense. But every other run, the Giants like defense was structured. They were playing within the confines of the defense. They were not over pursuing at all. The linebackers were fitting. The safeties were where they needed to be. The nickel defenders were holding up. The continuity of the defense was being held intact by the Giants, and they weren't getting bullied up front either. So like overall, I think the Giants defense had a good day when it came to run defense, even though they had those blights that I just went over.
Yeah, here's what I'm gathering from your evaluation over these first 2 days of joint practices. Again, remember, joint practices are very important. I think they're the most telling thing we have, to be quite frank, over preseason. And what you're telling me, this Giants run defense first team has looked pretty damn good with the exception of 2 zone read plays, which whatever, like it's zone read against Justin Fields, and 1 misdirection kind of play where they got fooled a bit and Braylon Allen hit hard. But like, as we talked about, like, yes, I agree with your assessment that let's take everything with a grain of salt from the first team defense overall, because the Jets offense could be one of the worst in the NFL or bottom 10. Jets run game could be one of the 5 or 10 best. When you have a player like Justin Fields at quarterback, it elevates your run game to an insane degree. And they have good offensive linemen. We talked about this a little bit earlier. They've really built up this offensive line, Nick. So I think the fact that the first team defense has held its own with the exception of a few plays against the run is really promising, because I wonder if that's the one thing we're overrating about this team. Like our run defense, it could be a nightmare problem, because I think a lot of that was based on the games Dex wasn't there.
Yes. Well, I don't know. A lot of it was also when Dex got taken off the field. So Dex was healthy.
Yeah, and when he's not on the field.
Exactly. Right. So it's when he's just not on the field. Because when Dex wasn't there, the Giants run defense shored up as we've said, just because Shane Bowen had to drastically change what he wanted to do. Yes, exactly. And they were running out like 5-man. They were covering up all the gaps.
They
were making it as easy as you could on their linebackers, because Okereke was also injured. So the Giants, they had, it was a mess, but they did
in that span when they did that, Nick. This is just funny to remember when we watched it on tape, when they did do that full sellout for the run. Wasn't it like Lamar, Flacco, and like another other court just like torching us for like 300 plus spark 12 yards a throw per attempt?
Flacco not as much, but Lamar went for 5. And
what did Flacco? I thought Flacco ripped us.
No, well, we beat the crap out of them, didn't we?
No, we beat them. I feel like via offense. Let me just see this game. Like you go over that.
I just remember drop passes by the Colts and
330
Flacco. Yeah. But I think a lot of that was in garbage time. Like their offense was, I mean, someone can check me on that, but their offense was sputtering. And it was one of those things where like, holy crap, we're just torching them right now. And then I think in like garbage time, they ended up coming back. Someone can correct me on that. But yeah, I remember we were playing the Saints and Alvin Kamara, like Alvin Kamara's going to run all over us. He really didn't do that much. And then we played the Ravens, like Derrick Henry's going to have a game. And I think he had like 60 yards or something.
They didn't do much.
64 yards or something. And he didn't do much, but the Giants were just surrendering so much via the pass. And it was, the Giants were selling out. And yeah, man, it's those were tough times for the New York Giants. But the run defense, I'm still worried about the run defense. I'm just saying in this joint practice, I felt like they held their own. I don't know though who's going to be this reliable starter. And I talked about this with Bobby Skinner as well. And I want to pitch this question to you.
Sure.
I don't know what the Giants are going to do about Raheem Nunez-Roches. Now he's earning first team snaps. He's getting on the second team. To me, the Giants will save, and I want to pull up the numbers when I shut up. But they'll save money on the cap if they get rid of Raheem Nunez-Roches. And I don't know if his skill set in an even environment is worth the money the Giants are paying him. But this is all contextual. I don't want to get rid of him because I don't trust the depth behind Dexter Lawrence. So I think he's actually worth that money, but that's more circumstantial because of the Giants' lack of depth, the dearth of talent behind Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah. It's interesting because they did do something to try to address this issue in the offseason by using a 3rd round pick on Darius Alexander, but it does appear like Alexander's coming along a little slower than some of these other rookies, right? So we're not counting on that yet, and they didn't do much in free agency in my mind to address it. They signed Roy Robertson-Harris, who I think could be good, but I think what he'll offer the Giants is more of a pass rushing aspect. So, and Ledbetter was kind of brought in to maybe be the run defender. He's like, what is he, just working like almost exclusively the third and second teams? He hasn't
Yeah,
gotten.
he's not somebody that I think we like. I would pay more attention to the DJ Davidsons probably than the Jeremiah Ledbetters at this point, which
And
again goes to show you exactly what I was just saying 2 minutes ago.
Sure. And when it comes to DJ Davidson, I'm more, if I'm going to have hope, it's more to do with his pass rushing upside to me than his run defense upside. So we don't really have any options but to keep Raheem Nunez, like Nacho, like in my mind at least, unless, and this is something that could be interesting because you've referenced this before on our podcast, Nick, the Giants look at that third waiver priority and say, I like someone that hit the open market at final cuts when it comes to interior defensive linemen. And because this is the one position, Nick, where I think I'm least concerned with you not being on the team during camp, not the communication, all that stuff that you need, the reps, like the rapport, all that. I think you just plug and play someone at D tackle that we pick off waivers that could honestly be better than Nacho, like from a run defense standpoint.
Yeah, I don't hate Raheem Nunez-Roches as a run defender. I think that's why the Giants brought him in, and he's adequate, I would say, as a run defender. He offers you very little as a pass rusher. Right. He does bring the energy. I think he's a respected member of the locker room, and that is valuable. But the Giants can save $3.6 million on the cap with only eating 1.4, and that might be the deciding factor. But again, man, I can't rely on Darius Alexander from what I've seen so far. He looks slow. He looks behind the 8 ball. He got tied up basically the entire game against the Buffalo Bills. I think he had some like solid plays when it came to just positioning himself in his gap to force Frank Gore Jr. or whoever the running back was to bounce away. But overall, it was a pretty lackluster effort. And if anybody wants to go and see the All-22, I put it up on Twitter, all of his plays. It's on my timeline right now. So, and then looking behind that, it's like you're talking about DJ Davidson, Jordan Riley, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Roy Robertson, Harris. Like, I think his presence is I think I think if you ask me right now, I'd keep him. But again, I don't really know how else the Giants can create money if they're that cap strapped, right? If they're that tight. Yeah. And Joe Shane and the Giants pro football scouting department have a better idea on who's going to be released around the football league to spend that number 3 waiver priority on it. If we're talking about defensive line, I don't even know if that's that's probably a top 3 position, but corner, I have to imagine is up there. And then maybe, like I was talking to Ed today, he thought maybe wide receiver too. And I was like, interesting.
We'll get into that. There's some speculation there that we need to address.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's a little difficult to know exactly where Joe Shane's head's at with that and where the Giants are when it comes to the entire roster, because the Giants at least have a lot of bodies on the defensive line. I just don't know how competent those bodies are, because guys even like Elijah Garcia are guys I think the Giants like. And I'm not going to lie, he had solid film last year, all things considering, for a guy the Giants brought in mid-season, right? But I'm still a little worried about the Giants' overall run defense, even though they had a good outing today.
As you were saying that, I kind of peeked over to our lads to take a look at the Bills roster. I feel like the Bills are a team the Giants will love to take somebody off the waiver wire for on the interior defensive line. I don't really see anything I love there. I mean, they have Casey Rogers. They have Marcus Harris. Maybe they see something in any of those. Justin Hollins. Someone's going to get cut because they drafted TJ Sanders, who looks freaking awesome.
Casey Rogers was just here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought him up. They just drafted Casey. I mean, they just signed him up from us, so that's probably unlikely. And Deion Walker, another player they just drafted. Like, there will be someone getting cut there, but we'll have to look to other rosters. We'll see as that comes. As we take this moment here, I do want to say thank you to everybody joining us here on the live stream. And thank you to Roy Romano, who said, I've had $1,000 donation to St. Jude's. A bet that the Jets will have a better record than the Giants. That's interesting. Not with me. I won't make that bet just because I don't make $1,000 bets anymore. I've tried to limit myself from a wagering standpoint. It's true, Nick. I'm trying to cut it out from a sports betting standpoint. Though it is toward charity, so maybe. But what I wanted to say is thank you to everybody who's tuning in for us live, and please hit the like button, leave us a comment. I'm really appreciative everybody left a comment here today. Old school listener of ours, Jon Snow Targaryen, left a comment, said the goats, and I haven't seen you in the comments in a while. Funny story with Jon Snow Targaryen.
Dude, tell it. I know exactly what you're gonna say. That's so funny.
For the longest time, I was trying to hide that username from Nick, because Nick was watching Game of Thrones for the first time, and I had already seen the series, and I loved it, except for the ending. I loved the series, and I really loved the lore of the show. And there was one final twist that I felt like Nick had not known about, and I was so excited for him to get it. And that twist, I don't care. The show's over. I won't say it, but the Snow Targaryen should give it away, and I won't go too further. Finally, like Nick didn't have it spoiled. He somehow avoided this guy Jon Snow Targaryen's name, or just didn't put 2 and 2 together, whatever it may be. Finally, he got to that twist, and he just like wasn't that impressed by the twist, and it was just so devastating to me. I thought he was going to be so impressed by this twist. I feel like it was the best twist in the entire show by far. I loved it. It was everything for me, and I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's R plus L equals J is like the way the lore, the way that was talked about on the message board, R plus L equals J. And so I was just so disappointed. He got to the twist and nothing happened. But thank you for commenting. Tabla Deep, I see a bunch of comments. Tom Ty is always in here, so I do really appreciate all of you commenting and hitting the like button right now. Please subscribe as well. Let's get back into Giants football talk.
Yeah, and Tom T or Ty says, did you see Carter hit the interview podium right after Burns? Carter is so much smaller than Burns. I think one misnomer about Burns is that he's like a small defensive end. He's not. He's a little bit skinnier, but he's still like well put together from a muscle perspective. I think that's like, just because he's a speed rusher who wins with finesse and wins around the edge, I think a lot of people don't realize that this dude's like 6'5", 255 pounds. He's a pretty big dude. But yes, Burns is I think like whenever I see him, I look at him and he's lean, but he's still big. If that makes sense. I wanted to say one thing too, just because the Giants playing the Jets this weekend.
Sure.
And we're talking about defensive line depth. Leonard Taylor III, Sal loves him, kid from Miami, undrafted kid from 2024. We talked about him a lot during that pre-draft process. He's on the back end of that depth chart, and maybe some of those back end defensive linemen, maybe they're doing stuff in practice that the Giants like. And the Giants will look to maybe not spend the 3rd overall, but maybe look to spend a claim on one of those players. So I always find it interesting whenever there's a joint practice to see if there's back end players that flash a little bit, that the Jets will try to get creative and sneak underneath, and the Giants would go and get and bring onto their active roster.
It's happened before with Jason Pinnock, so who knows if it could happen again. Giants are going to do some things when it comes to that back end stuff. All teams do, and I feel like the Giants have 3rd waiver priority. They'd be stupid not to, and I think they will. So we'll see what happens there on the back end of the roster. Any other thoughts? There's a lot of talking points on offense. I know you didn't watch the offense today. We'll get to it anyway because I do want to discuss it. A lot of it is not only just 30,000-foot view stuff for our season, but just things that need to be discussed now. But any other thoughts on the defense just from watching them, or players you wanted to highlight, or just things that caught your attention?
No, not necessarily. I think the defense performed well, and I think we hit basically everything. I just want them to get healthy, and I'm still, I think it's cool that Nick Jones seems to be one of those guys. If we're talking about back end roster guys, he's running with the first team special teams kick return unit, and he's the first man up when Drew Phillips isn't on the field to play the slot, and he was playing outside with Cordell Flott and Deontay Banks. Cordell Flott being limited, Deontay Banks not practicing. So that's a name that I think we can maybe say he's probably going to make the roster, especially with guys like, I don't know what's going on with Corey Black. Trey Hawkins is out. So like all these little injuries, Dable has brought it up multiple times, how like, hey, time is running out on these young guys. If they can't get on the field, they're not like, it's not looking great for them, basically. So I think players like Nick Jones could benefit from that. Knock on wood. Hopefully nothing happens to him. And then Bo Collins was receiving first team reps again on offense and making some plays. So that bodes well for the undrafted kid from Notre Dame.
Been a lot of injuries. We'll talk about the offense in a moment. There's been a lot of injuries that are starting to pile up. They're minor ones, it seems. Like we haven't had any unlucky breaks just yet. But man, like Newman, I hope that's nothing serious. Newman to me is one of the more like under the radar important players for this team this season. Like I would rather have Newman on the field than any of the corners besides Adebo, and honestly maybe even then Adebo, if I'm going to be completely honest, despite the lack of depth. I know people see it's an insane hot take, but like I think the safeties are more important for this system and for this team context with our pass rush as it is than the corners. And I really strongly believe that. I think these safeties will play a big role in stopping the run, playing the alley, blitzing at times, and just playing those deep halves and getting their, because Newman has been all over I feel like he's had a great training camp until this injury.
Yeah, he's a good football player, man. I really respect him and Javon Hahn. I think they're both very cerebrally advanced safeties. And Dane Belton received a lot of first-team reps, not just because Tyler Newman was out. I'm imagining that had something to do with it, but he was also playing the Drew Phillips role, dropping down into the slot. So we might be seeing, if the Giants are healthy from a safety perspective, a lot of 3 safety looks.
Yeah, and that'll be awesome to see this season if Dane Belton can take that step forward. I'm a little bit more skeptical than I was going into this training camp, but that's
Same.
only based on a small sample size. I didn't love how he played in the first preseason game, but
By the
small
way,
sample size.
let's get to the super, by the way, from
Yeah,
Michael.
let's do all supers
Burchett.
if there are any, and then
Yeah,
we'll do
this is the only one right now. So
Okay.
while the floor is lower, is it possible the ceiling is higher with Dart than Russ? If yes, any chance Dart starts without it being because of a lost season?
Great question, Michael.
I think this is a great question, and I would say the floor is, the ceiling is higher with Jackson Dart, absolutely. And do I think Dart can see if it's not a lost season? I do. If Russ, shits himself or something, I can see that. Yes, if the Giants are like a 500 record and the offense, if the offense is like the Steelers' offense at the end of the season last year and they can't move the football, I could see the Giants making that transition, making that decision if they feel like Jackson is ready for that type of responsibility, if they have that kind of confidence in the young player, and if the Giants still have a season to seize.
Yeah, and I think that you said it best. This is something I've been toying around with for a while. If you've been listening to the last few podcasts, like, I do think Dart has a higher ceiling because I do think Dart has a better chance of manipulating the pocket and being better in the pocket and taking fewer sacks. I put this tweet out earlier today, Nick, and it was Warren Sharp's tweet and that I retweeted, but he put a percentage. Let me just make sure I get this right so I don't screw this up as I try to talk through this and filibuster a little bit for a quick second. But it was percentage of quarterback pressures that turn into sacks. What does that tell me? That stat that tells me, Nick, the sacks that are on the quarterbacks, essentially, the ones that are more their fault. And the Giants were fourth worst last year. Daniel Jones, 27.3%, fourth worst of all quarterbacks. But Russell Wilson wasn't much higher, 23.6%. I think that was like 12th worst among all quarterbacks or 13th worst among all quarterbacks. He's going to take a lot of sacks. We're going to take a small upgrade there going from Jones, but not as much as we'd like from a sack to pressure. And then, Warren did a great job of underlying underneath that tweet why that's so important, because the last 2 years by the stats, 0 sacks on a drive, 40% of drives score more points, 20% of drives score more touchdowns. Take even 1 sack on a drive, 25%. You go from 40 to 25%, and you go from 25% of drives that end in touchdowns to just 8%. 2.2 points per drive if you take 0 sacks, 1.1 points per drive if you take 1 sack, even just 1 sack on a drive. Punting goes from 32% with 0 sacks to 51% with just 1 sack. So it's a big problem. If Russ is taking the sacks that he took last year, that's one area where the Giants might look at it and be like, Dart can give us more. And the question is, will they go to it earlier? I'm of the belief that, yes, we could have a situation, Nick, where our defense is doing everything they can to win a football game, and we should be winning football games, but Russ is killing us with
like 21 to 14 losses.
Yes.
So, stuff like that, or 17 to 14, something like that. Yeah.
Basically, just look at the Cowboys and Bengals games from last year. We should have won those games. The defense did their part, and even the Washington game, but the offense did a little more in that game. But definitely the Cowboys and Bengals games, and the quarterback ruined those games for us last year. So if those things start to pop up again, that's when I could see them make the trigger. And I don't think it has to be the season's loss. I think it has to be, though, and this is important for me, Nick, it has to be that Dable feels confident that Dart is ready. I don't think they're going to rush him in unless they feel confident that he's actually ready to play.
And I think it's important to note this as well. Jameis Winston's going to be here.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why Jameis Winston is running with the third team with Tommy DeVito and they're splitting reps and they're hardly seeing the field is to get Jackson Dart as many reps as possible with the second team and against quality-ish opponents. Like when the season rolls around, I don't know if Jackson Dart is going to be the number 2 quarterback receiving second team reps. That might be Jameis Winston, because if something were to happen to Russ, I don't know if they're going to turn to Dart. So I think all of this work that Jackson Dart is receiving right now, and he's handling it very well. I don't think that means Jameis Winston is not going to be receiving the second team reps once the season rolls around. There are 2 different ways to view this, right? Because they're focusing on the development of Dart, but when you're in season, yes, you want to develop Dart, and they're obviously going to focus on that to some extent, but you also need to have that contingency in place if your quarterback goes down, and the Giants might trust Jameis in a season that they're trying to seize at that point. So Jameis might be receiving those second team reps. So it's something to monitor.
Good point. And I'll figure that as it goes. Let's transition a little bit to the offensive side of the ball. And, a lot of the focus on Giants land, for those who listen to a podcast like this one, a in-depth Giants type podcast, the corner situation, the run defense situation, D tackle. But I'm starting to get a little concerned about another position. And that position is wide receiver. And the reason I'm concerned about it is a combination of knick-knack injuries and then one really weird situation. So from the knick-knack injury standpoint, or at least I hope it's just a knick-knack injury, Neighbors is hurt, I guess, with the toe injury. We're not going to get any details from Dable. That's not how he goes about things, but he's not, who knows what's going on there. And then this Jalen Hyatt situation. Being at practice, have you heard anything? What's going on with Jalen Hyatt? Because Russell Wilson talks him up. Yeah, but now he's like, is he injured or what's the deal? Why are we not seeing more of him?
So he didn't practice when I watched the offense. And today he just returned from an injury. So I'm imagining it's one of those slow ramp ups. But so I don't want to read too much into it, but it just seems like since Jalen Hyatt's rookie season, it's been a lot of negativity, right? He caught 8 balls last year after a pretty solid rookie campaign. I've seen Hyatt and Brian Dable like talk and stuff, during stretching and everything and like mess with each other. So it doesn't seem like it's, and I saw that like maybe 3 practices ago when I was there, when he was actually practicing. So I don't know if it's a personal thing. I really don't know if there's any animus between the two or if he feels a certain way about the organization. I know there are big profiles on Twitter who are kind of know people within the Giants organization who are suggesting that Jalen Hyatt might be up for a trade. I don't know if any of that is true. I don't know how to glean any information from that, but I do know last year we had expectations. They weren't even close to being met. And not only that, Jalen Hyatt was despondent when he was talking to the media about his lack of usage. Sure. I don't get that right now, but I also don't have access to him. So it's just one of those things where it's like, if week 1, week 2 rolls around, he's healthy and he plays 6 snaps between the two. It's just like, well, what are we doing with this guy at this point? And are we really not going to keep a Montrell Washington or another player who can help out on special teams, just have Jalen Hyatt sitting there doing nothing? Is he only there just in case something happens to Malik Neighbors or another wide receiver? And if that's the case, why isn't he earning snaps anyways? So there's a lot of questions surrounding Jalen Hyatt. I still think he's a talented player. I don't know if he's more reliable as a route runner and being in the place where he needs to be, because that's always been an issue for Jalen Hyatt. He's put on weight. He's got a little stronger, but you got to stay healthy and be on the football field to earn that. And I don't know if he's going to even play on Saturday because he's just coming back from an injury. And today he didn't really see the field all that much because of that.
Wow. It's really disappointing to me, Nick. The Giants traded up to draft this player in the 3rd round. They gave up assets. And from listening to their post-draft videos, Dable said they would have taken him in round 2 if Schmitz wasn't there, and they almost traded up. It's like they were really high on this player at one point in time, and Russell Wilson has name-dropped him throughout this entire training camp, and he even said 2 days ago he mentioned Jalen Hyatt as part of this offense. And I feel like from the clips I've seen, Hyatt's looked pretty good this training camp. It's such an odd, weird situation going on with Jalen Hyatt. I'll say this, I do like your point about like, why are we worried about keeping him? Because look, if you're going to trade him, Nick, we're not getting crap for him. I'm just saying the word shit. We're not getting shit. We'll get maybe a pick swap. So to me, I hate those types of trades. Like, what am I getting out of this? It's basically like cutting the player in my mind. But while he won't help you on special teams, if we have injuries at receiver, I still feel so much more comfortable putting Hyatt in than some of these players that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's so where it gets interesting is like you have the Montrell Washingtons. Bo Collins is an exciting young player. Yeah. And then you have Little Jordan Humphrey, and Little Jordan Humphrey's not going to get any of us to be like, oh yeah, Little Jordan. But like, Jackson Dart really likes him. He's running with first team with all of these injuries. He's been productive and he's healthy. He's out there. And when you're healthy and you're out there and you're earning reps, like that's what the Giants are looking for these back end roster players. You get the more reps, the more comprehension that you understand in the offense, and the more potential and opportunity you have to impress the coaching staff and develop a rapport with these quarterbacks. So I look at a guy like Little Jordan Humphrey and I'm like, is he going to be one of these receivers? So how many receivers are we keeping? There's a lot of questions, and especially with Dart, like praising him, and they seem to be on the same page with a lot of different things in practice, and that translated in the game with the touchdown as well. Not an overly exciting player, but somebody who can also block. We know that's very valuable in this offense as well, in any offense really. So I think the roster dynamics when it comes to the wide receiver room is interesting. And I also want the Giants will probably get creative with some of these guys too. Maybe put one on the pup if they are injured to try to squeak guys around. They're probably going to cut a guy and try to slip him through the practice squad. You have a lot of special teams dudes like Gunnar Olszewski and Montrell Washington. What are going to happen with them? Will any other team actually try to claim them to their 53? I'm not sure, because when it comes to special teams, that could get a little hairy and people might actually do that, even though they're not big names. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to all this.
It is, and I feel so much less confident and comfortable about our weapons, specifically the wide receiver position. I'm still good on running back and tight end than I thought I'd be at this point.
Yeah, like our first team offense today, like some of the wide receiver packages were Little Jordan Humphrey, Gunnar Olszewski, and Bo Collins. Like that's your 11 personnel package. And I know like Sauce Gardner didn't play and some of the defensive players didn't play on the Jets side, but overall, man, like we hold Russell Wilson's feet to the fire, but he doesn't have Malik. Like this offense is completely like Malik Neighbors is the catalyst to this offense. This offense is going to revolve around Malik Neighbors, and that's going to dictate what the defense is doing against the Giants offense. So it's really hard to evaluate the Giants offense right now and project it forward if Malik Neighbors is going to be on the offense during the season, which we all hope, knock on wood, and this toe injuries and all that serious. And the Giants didn't have either of their tackles, as we said at the top of the show in this practice. So you're looking at Marcus Bowe and James Hudson. And Marcus Bowe, absolutely love this guy. This guy has fire under his ass, man. He's getting into fights out there too, but not in a James Hudson manner to where it's like, all right, bro, like he's just like sticking up for himself and he's holding his own on right tackle and left tackle, like positive vibes for the 5th round pick.
Yeah, that's really positive vibes. I know you didn't get a chance to watch the offense. I did want to see if you had any thoughts on Marcus Bowe from today or you heard anything.
We talked with him at the practice. He was just like sitting down and he's just being real, man. Like to me, he gives off the energy of somebody who like is comfortable with who he is like, look, I think he's one of those people who understands like, yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not going to let it like kill me kind of thing. Like he has a certain composure and a certain energy around him that I appreciate in an offensive lineman. And there are offensive linemen on the New York Giants right now that I wish had that same exact energy that we all know do not, if you know what I'm talking about.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know exactly who you referring to.
Evan Neal I'm talking about.
Okay.
I thought you were trolling me there, but yeah. But like,
I'd put it up to other guys. Like, am I sure JMS has that and Runyon has that?
Yeah. Not really. I feel you. Yeah. That's a good point.
They don't feel like nasty players to me at all.
Now, JMS has a nasty. I just don't think he's that like powerful, really.
Right.
Yeah. Like I just don't like. I think JMS is I think JMS can be an adequate center in a good situation. I just don't think there's an upside there, really, and it sucks at this point.
He needs like a Shanahan. I feel like he needs to go to one of those types of offenses to have any chance.
Yeah, I think if you put Neal next to him, if Neal can figure out guard and if he's in the right state of mind and if he's playing to his best ability, that will help him at least. Because one of the things we always, I don't want to say praise JMS about, but we're positive relative to how we kind of view JMS. We're positive when it came to JMS is him at the second level. And if you're throwing those combos with Neal and if Neal can assume the initial block, JMS can get up to that second level cut. I think he takes good angles. I think he's a smart overall player. When it comes to JMS, and it sucks, a lot of it is, are you just strong enough to move people? And he's not. He's kind of like a stalemater who can kind of like position himself well to allow a run to be successful. But sometimes the other guy's going to win with leverage. And if he's stronger than you, he's going to be able to move you and then execute his assignment within the gap. So that's my issue with JMS. And I think Neal could help that on the combo duo inside zone situations. But again, I don't know how, it's not going to turn JMS into the superstar either. I think it just helps him get up to the second level in a more clean and efficient manner.
And Neal missing time now with another injury. It's not helping. He needed to play that.
He practiced so today. And
he's back out there.
Yeah, according to Ed, he looked good out there.
Okay, good. Yeah. And I hope, I assume, and I hope he'll play this next preseason game this Saturday. He's going to certainly need to be quite frank. And I'll say this: I talked earlier about my main concern, Nick, being just Russell Wilson taking too many sacks, Russell Wilson not really being able to operate a shotgun drop back pass game, not using the middle of the field, not excellent on quick game. Though I think he's a little better there than described. I got to say another big thing after talking it over with you today. I feel like you're kind of right, dude. Like this whole offense is designed for and around Malik Neighbors. Neighbors gets hurt, we're kind of just screwed on offense, to be quite frank.
Because I don't think they're like, I'm sorry if I cut you off. I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to, like, I think their rushing attack could be what? Like at best, the Giants rushing attack could be 18th.
At best, this whole line is just not a good run blocking.
Yeah.
Unit.
So like we're looking at that, right? And I think Neighbors' presence is going to open up those rushing lanes as we discussed pretty extensively throughout the offseason and all last year. So you're looking at a rushing attack that is, middle of the pack. That's at best. And then without Neighbors out there, we're talking about Wandale and Slayton, and I think
Right.
Theo is going to be a good player this year for the Giants. I do, but you need to strike fear in the opposing defense. And the only player I think the Giants have offensively who's going to do that, not named Andrew Thomas, if we're including the offensive line, is Malik Neighbors. And he strikes fear in every defensive coordinator. Like, he is the first guy. He's a Saquon Barkley-esque type of player, an Odell Beckham-esque type of player. Yes. And what I mean by that is when the defense looks at the Giants, say, oh, we got the Giants this week. What do we got the game plan against? Don't let Malik Neighbors beat you.
Yes.
You know, and that's that type of player. And not every team has that. Giants didn't have that for a while. And they had Saquon, and that was just shut down the run, but then their passing attack was absolute shit. But Russell Wilson is a talented enough quarterback. He has a good enough arm, and he throws a good enough deep ball to allow one mistake by the defense. We're going to try to do one-on-one. And I think Russ will be able to diagnose that and then attack. And then that results in a touchdown for the Giants because Malik Neighbors is that dynamic of a talent.
Yes. With Neighbors on the field, I feel like you're right about that, Nick, though I do concern myself with the idea of like Arthur Smith designs a really good run game, dude. Like when I watch some of that tape, like he's doing things in the run game and their O-line is doing things in the run game the Giants were not doing last year. And I feel like a lot of what made Russ efficient when it was going well with the Steelers last year was just the run game was really good and he would just go play action and hit stuff off of that. If our run game sucks, like I'm real worried about this offense because I do not believe Russell Wilson is a generator without the run game. I don't know if he ever really was, to be honest, like even in Seattle.
Here's a question. Would you say, and I agree with your Arthur Smith take, is Tyrone Tracy Jr. more dynamic than Najee Harris?
100%.
I agree. Yes. And
I think problem being like, I think the run blocking is mostly what makes a run game. Yeah.
Would you say the run blocking, the personnel on the Steelers, like it was, I don't know, like was their personnel better than the Giants personnel from a run blocking?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I feel like
it was a lot of scheming, right?
It was a lot of just scheme, but I don't trust us to scheme up a run game that well.
That's where it gets interesting. I mean, with Andrew Thomas out there. Yeah, with Andrew Thomas out there. I mean, year one we did. And there were quality runs, and a lot of it is attributed to Saquon. I think a lot of it should be attributed to Saquon. But if you go back to that Tennessee game, some of the counter runs that they had, Mark Lewinsky throwing blocks on safeties 10 yards down the field to help spring that. Like the Giants were a pretty good running offense early in 2022. And then the play action, and then they worked the play action. And that's why against the Bears, the Giants had a bunch of quarterback rushes because they didn't know how to contain. Like they were winning in a variety of ways with the rushing attack until the NFL kind of caught on to what the Giants were trying to do. And they were just like, let's just like make sure somebody is following 8 the entire time and then just follow 26 and challenge the Giants to throw downfield. And that's how the Giants make the playoffs. And they face the Eagles and the Eagles didn't let them do anything offensively. It was so depressing just watching that game on all 22.
So depressing. Also so frustrating for me when I hear now after like, Brian Dable sucks as a coach. He held back Daniel Jones. Like, what, dude? He got the most possible you can get out of that type of talent in 2022. He literally said, all I see on your tape is you staring down the first read and then staring at it. Just come off that fast, look to the B gap and run. And for a while it worked until it didn't work. That to me is great coaching, maximizing the talent, not the opposite way around.
And the Russell Wilson thing, like Russell Wilson, look, I don't have delusions of grandeur with Russell Wilson. Same. I don't. Like I agree with all the negatives that we brought up through this episode. I think he's going to take a lot of sacks. But my thing is he is going to be mentally there. And what I mean by that is he's going to be able to understand what the defense is trying to do and then have that solution. So when he hikes the ball, his first read is going to be based off of what he thinks is going to happen because he has such a great ability to anticipate what the defense is doing. And he throws with anticipation as well. Now, if that first read isn't there, he might quickly get to that check down. But I think he's going to have the solutions to the answers to the test of the defense. And that will help set up explosive plays. And that will help matriculate, to use that Hank Stram term, the football down the field. And that's something that the previous quarterback did not have. Now, where the previous quarterback does have some strengths over Russell Wilson, i.e. his ability to run really and utilize his legs. Russ isn't quite there yet. Right. Russell's mind is going to, I think, allow this offense to tick maybe beyond the talent that they actually have on the roster, if that makes sense.
I want to think that's right. And I do want to hopefully feel that way, Nick. My only issue being, we talked a lot about this last year when we were evaluating the quarterback class because there was one guy in that class we felt like who did it the best. I think a lot of finding solutions in the NFL is finding in-breakers, and Russell Wilson just doesn't anticipate in-breakers well. And so that's a problem. Yep. And then if that's not going to be the case and he does anticipate those one-on-one shots on the outside, that's all good and well. He had George Pickens last year, and that's who he leaned on, and he's an amazing contested catch type player. I think Neighbors is amazing, maybe not at that level, but Wan'Dale's not going to be that one-on-one outside guy, and Slayton isn't good at adjusting to the ball in the air. That's not his strong point. And Hyatt, who I think might be the second best after Neighbors at that specific trait, is not going to play probably based on what we're seeing. So it just doesn't, I struggle with it. And I hope Theo can maybe be this guy.
Thank you for bringing Theo up. I think Theo over the middle of the field is something that we should pay attention. Like I agree with, okay, he's not great. Russell Wilson on hitting those deep digs where the wide receivers start maybe in a minus split inside the numbers and then they run into the hashes and then you can't really see. But Theo Johnson, who's already in the middle of the field, who's 6'5", 270 pounds, who's a massive target. I think Russell Wilson, I think Theo is in for a season, bro. I think Theo is going to be heavily utilized in this offense. They tried to do it last year, and then they started doing it with Daniel Jones. I would say Russell Wilson's probably a little bit better than Daniel Jones when it comes to even utilizing the tight end, even though it's in the middle of the field. So and we see it all through practice already. Like Theo Johnson's heavily involved in the joint practices all throughout training camp. So I think he could be the second option on this team when it comes to the passing attack.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like Greg Dulcich, him and Greg Dulcich keep getting positive buzz from camp. I kind of want Dulcich to make the roster. And I'll address a comment here. First of all, Adam Reich, thank you for commenting. And I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm not saying Slayton is not better than Van Jefferson. I'm a huge Slayton fan. We talked about his separation skills on this podcast and his tape all the time. I'm just saying in contested catch situations, simply that. Nothing more than that. And I'm not saying Jefferson's even better.
He's not.
Slayton, he's not. He stinks too at that. And Russ didn't even give him those opportunities. And I'll say this, as far as the Arthur Smith point you made, yes, I do believe that it's possible that in that game, Arthur Smith stopped letting Russ make checks to passes, and Russ was cooking that game. That was a one-game sample size where he threw for like 400 or 450, whatever it is. Last thing I will say, thank you to Tom Ty for pumping up the comments, and please, please, please hit the like button. We don't have a lot of likes on this video right now. You got to help us out. If you're listening, just click the like, hover your hand over that mouse. It's a 2-second process for you, but for us, it makes all the difference. So please do that. And I'm seeing a lot of good golf talk in this chat, so I want to address one of those.
Okay. We'll get to that here in a second. Okay. But I just wanted to say, just because the practice was ended, the Giants and the Jets, when they had these joint practices, they always end it with a specific drill. It was a 1-minute drill, tied game, one timeout for the offense, drive and get in the field goal range. The Giants drove down the field, their offense. They got into a 60-yard field goal range. Graham Gano did not kick. It was Jude McAtamney, and he came up about like 4 yards short of the 60-yard field goal, which was a little disappointing. And then when it was the Jets' offense's turn, they really didn't do anything. Like Justin Fields kept throwing it inbounds. Guys were getting tackled. They burned the timeout. Fields tried to work the sidelines, and he missed, I think, like almost every single throw except for one. And then the pressure was also just getting to Fields, and they didn't even get close to field goal range.
Yeah. Well, that's just something that really stands out as the Giants defense is dominant these practices.
And again, this is with like Raheem Lane and TJ Moore and Nick Jones playing in the secondary.
Well, when your pass rush is as deep as it is, it makes a huge difference. I'm so excited about our pass rush this year, dude. Man. I can't wait for week 1. What's going to happen? Jaden Daniels, the hottest quarterback in the NFL. Could we beat them? Could we beat the Washington Commanders simply by winning defensively, in my mind, and then just hitting a couple big plays on offense?
Yeah. So we're getting. No, I'm right there with you, man. We're getting questions about Turbo at practice. Look, Turbo's been exciting with the second team. He had a fumble today during special teams. It was a kick return, and it wasn't Michael Gobriel. It was the assistant coach. Lost his mind. Also saw Shane Bowen lost his mind. He screamed really loud and his voice cracked, and I kind of laughed a little bit. But it was because the Giants had the wrong personnel in there, and Elijah Chapman was on the field when he wasn't supposed to be. Shane Bowen did not like that, but Chapman's still earning like first team reps every now and again and getting in there. And I think he's a player who more than likely will make the roster, but just something of note. Yeah,
good to note. All right, let's get into some super questions here. I know there were a few that trickled in.
All right. First, we'll start with Tom Ty. Tom, thank you so much. Says, your content is elite as always. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, Tom. And he said, Bobby better not try to steal Nick. And then he puts a bunch of mean faces. Tom. I don't think Bobby's going to try to steal me. It's fine. No. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll go kick his 6'8" ass. Yeah, that's something about Bobby. People, I don't know if people, like, the guy's gigantic. He's a massive human being.
Crazy how tall he is.
He's 6'8". Like, that's a big dude. I have a buddy who's 6'8" as well. He's not as big as Bobby, but 6'8" is just like an insane height to be as a human being. It's got to be wildly uncomfortable, I have to imagine.
Well, here's the thing. I've always said, and you and I have had this discussion a lot about, because we're not tall people. We always hate to hear the sob stories from the tall people. Life's so hard. Like outside of like being on a bus and being on a plane, it is so much better to be tall in life. In
Oh, I agree,
every
100%.
yeah,
Yeah. But it is very like I'm uncomfortable on a plane, and I'm like, dude, I couldn't imagine
same.
being like someone Bobby size or something.
Same.
You have to fly first class.
You almost have to fly first class, which is not really cool because it's expensive as hell to fly first class. I've never done it yet in my life. One day I want to fly first class, Nick. I really do. But when I look at the pricing, yeah, I know you used to be able to do that. But when I look at the pricing, it's always like $1,000 more, something like crazy. Like it's like a massive jump to get to first class. So I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I have a lot of plane issues. I always get angry and Nick, I don't like sitting. I'm always jammed on my flights because I don't pay up. And like people try to take too much of the armrest. They're not cognizant of their arm. The worst is when people take your leg room. Like there is clear dividers on each seat. Like you should have your legs in between that. And when you start to overtake it, you're a douche. I'm just going to be honest. You're a bad person. Like you have your space, stick to your space, and try not to touch the person next to you. It's not that hard. I hate people who are just always with their freaking like exposed sleeve arm hair rubbing against me the whole flight. Like take your own space. I don't want to touch you. I don't want to ever be touching you. And the only way for me to do that is then give you all my space and jam my arm. I have too many flights, Nick, where I have my arm tethered to my side.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's so insane. Was what I'm going to do, rub up against this person? I don't want that either. Yeah, I'd rather be tethered to my side.
I'm always about as considerate as I can be. Like whenever I flew with my dog, I bought the whole row. Just because I was like, dude, I'm not gonna have like my dog like inconvenience somebody else with my dog being at my feet, right? So like, you got to do that. You got to be courteous of.
Got to do that. You got to do that, and it is what it is, Nick. But I don't know why we got into that tangent. Let's take
Bird 67. Great job, guys. Hey, Bird 67. We thank you so much, Rob. Appreciate it. Absolute best case for the Giants. They'll be around 500 after 8. Isn't there a chance Dable thinks Dart gives them the best chance to win around that area? Yeah. I mean, depending on how they get to that point. But yes, I can see that, especially if Dart is up to speed with everything. And Dable's not pumping Dart up unnecessarily, but he has a lot of positive things to say about it. And you could see in practice when Dart makes a play, Dable's he's getting going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's the $1 million question. When will Dart start this year? If Dart will start this year. And I think, as Nick and I went over earlier, if the Giants feel like he gives them the best chance to win and the defense is keeping them in games, he will play. And also, Pike us plenty or Pilks a plenty said this guy gets on the subway and complains about people touching him. No, it's crazy. That. I'm too good.
I was going to put that up just to bait you. I was going to bait you like that.
No. I mean, look, I got what is the word? I got issues. Okay.
I got issues. Someone clip that, dude. That was great. All right, Matt Peliquin, thank you so much.
Waiting for this comment. Right. Yes.
Haven't broken 100 on a course in over a year. At least Carter and Dart look promising. Darius Alexander struggled against the Bills. Offensive line decent. So I'll handle the Giants stuff, and then you can talk about the golf. Yeah. Carter and Dart look promising. Absolutely. Darius Alexander did struggle against the Bills. It wasn't great. Get locked up. He looks a little lethargic. Looks like he's not comfortable. Doesn't look nearly as athletic or as crisp. I am tempering my expectations, but I'm also not going to be overly hard on the kid because he missed a lot of mini camp and OTAs. And I think he's just behind right now. And I'm hoping that, over the next week or so, and maybe it's going to be a slow start to the season, we'll be able to get more information during these preseason games. But it's not a great start, but it doesn't mean it's going to continue like that. Right. So I'm just evaluating at practice rep by rep, basically at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm just excited to talk about golf here for a few minutes here. Sorry to all of you who don't like it, but
why don't you start a golf podcast?
I know nobody wants to listen to that. There are plenty of golf podcasts. That's not my level of expertise, though. Some might argue I have no level of expertise, and I say F you to those people. No, just kidding. Matt, listen, Matt, I should be happy with the fact that I haven't. Oh, no, I had one round where I did top 100 this year, but every other round's been sub 100, but I'm not making the progress I want in golf. And I'm still in the mid to low 90s and sometimes high 90s on bad days. And I'll tell you one thing that really helped my game and start because this is what's killed my handicap this year, the tee shots. I was going in on driver and taking 4 to 6 penalties per round, which kill your score. And even on some of these drives, I wouldn't take a penalty. They'd be just horrible drives that topped or went to the left. One thing I would suggest is either put away the driver to break 100 and then when you put away the driver, use a 3-wood off the tee or a hybrid off the tee. You're not going to lose that much distance, and you're going to keep it in play. Or set up to the driver differently. And what I mean by that is with your right, if you're a right-handed golfer, with your right foot, take a full step back and open the stance of your right foot and focus on the inside of the ball, hitting the inside of the ball. This is going to allow you to come around the ball and either hit a push draw or a draw. Either way, you're going to stop hooking and you're going to stop slicing by doing this. And it's going to keep the ball more in play. It's going to help you break 100 on the course. Last thing you're going to need to do is get better at lag putting. That just takes time and practice. And find a short game. Find a stock chip. I found a stock chip that works for me. It's mostly a bump and run style, but it's fine. If you just get it going and start to get the feel for it, you're going to break 100 soon. So keep at it. It will come to you.
And I get this question so much, and this isn't a super, but just because I get it so much about my widow's peak. Bangkok baseball. Nick, why do you shave your widow's peak? Be proud. I am proud, man. This is just a style I have now. My widow's peak is this right here. And there's times where I let like little hairs grow and I get really lazy. And then the comments are roasting me. And I'm like, I deserve to be roasted. You're right. I shouldn't do that. That's a very good point. Thank you so much. But you're right. Bangkok baseball. I should let it grow, but then, then I got to style it differently. And I kind of like the way I have it right now. I change my look and my style, as longtime listeners know, about every like 2 or 3 years. And I've had this for about 1.5 years now.
Couple other good takes. I'm sorry, I'm just focused on this. Triple Putt Pat says, don't be afraid to putt from off the green. I like that take, but I would take that a step further. Don't be afraid to play a hybrid or a 3-wood from off the green. You can really get good with a putter, just the same putter form. Get good at the feel of playing a hybrid or a 3-wood around the green. Another thing I would say is my friend the other day, I was playing with him last week or 2 weeks ago. He was having such a horrible driver day, like beyond belief bad. For the back 9, he played all irons. He just started hitting his 5-iron off the tee. He freaking scored a 44 on the back, like with just irons off the tee. It just goes to show how overrated driver can be and how scoring, like nobody takes a picture of that. Like there are no pictures on the scorecard. No one's going to, shot a 44 that day. Very legitimate. He plays he's like me. He's an honest golfer. He didn't cheat. And he did it with all irons. And like people will make fun of you. Oh, you played an iron off the tee, you know, blah, blah, blah. So what? It worked for him, and it was better than him blasting drives into the woods and taking a penalty.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
All right. Enough of this. Do we have any other supers that are non-golf related?
No supers. I mean, no supers at all right now. We already went through them, but this was fun, man. I don't mind. We should do a mailbag soon because I like questions like that, questions that are a little bit separate from football. And I love watching Dan get a full 3.6 talking about golf, man. That's his thing.
No, it's the one time it goes above 3.6 when I get to talk about golf. But yeah, we'll do a mailbag soon because I also do love the nonsense questions and talking non-Giants. And look, some people don't. They come here just for Giants football. But there are others that really do enjoy it. So you just have to keep in mind everyone when you make those complaints in the comments. But overall, I prefer you complaining in the comments rather than you not commenting at all. So go ahead and let it rip. And we need more likes on this video. Hit the damn like button. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.